In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can discover more primitives than the ones I cover in the videos. In the beginning student language, there's far too many primitives for you to learn them all, and far too many for us to cover them in the videos. So you need to be able to discover primitives on your own. And in other programming languages, there'll be even more primitives that you need to be able to discover on your own. So what I want to talk about is two general techniques you can use for discovering primitives. Now the first one, you're going to laugh at this, but the first one is actually to make a lucky guess. You may think that's crazy, but it turns out that what happens after you've been programming in a language for a while is you start to get a pretty good sense of what the naming conventions are. And it turns out you do manage to guess the name of a new primitive more often than you might think. Let me show you how that works. Imagine now we go back to where we were in the strings and images video. I know there's circle, rectangle, and text. I might say, well, gee, I wonder if there's something called triangle, and I could just try it. And I guess triangle must have some kind of size. I'll just put in a number, and it probably has something like a fill and a color. So let's just say solid, and we'll say purple. Again, I'm just trying this to see if it works. And sure enough, it does seem to work. At this point, I might wonder, well, what exactly is that number 40? And then I could go up here to triangle, click on it, and on my Mac, I'm going to control click. On Windows, you would right click. I say search in help desk for triangle. And this is going to bring up the Dr. Racket documentation for triangle. And I want the one from to_HTTP image. So I'm always going to select the one from to_HTTP image. And it says that the first number is the side length. So I know that 40 is this side length right along there. That's the 40. So you can guess, and often you can guess right. That's the first technique for discovering new primitives, is to make a good guess. Another good trick for discovering the name of new primitives is called search and scroll, or look up and scroll. Imagine that what I'm doing is I'm writing some expressions that in my racket, like this one, divide 3 by 4. Now if I run that, of course, I get 0.75. But maybe what I'd really like to do is round that to the nearest whole number, like 1 in this case. There must be a function in Racket to help me do that. So here's how the trick works. I find a place in the code where there's a related function, in this case divide. Divide's kind of like round, it operates on numbers. And I control click on top of divide, or on Windows, I right click. And then I pick the menu item search in help desk for slash. Now the thing is, Racket supports a lot of different languages. Okay? I want to choose the documentation for slash from HTTP beginner. I want to choose this line of it here. And so I'm going to click on that slash right there, and that'll take me to the documentation for this version of divide. And here I am, and goodness gracious, there's a whole bunch of functions here that look like they operate on numbers. Divide, less than, greater than. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through these, and I'm going to try not to pay too much attention to the list, because there's a lot of these functions. So I'm just kind of scrolling my way through this list. I need to not get lost in all these functions, or else my head is going to explode. But I'm scrolling. And eventually, after just a whole lot of scrolling, in this case there are lots of functions that operate on numbers, I will come to a function that is the one I need in this case, and here it is, round. And round does what I want to do. It rounds a real number to an integer. So now I've got what I need. I go back to Racket. I put round around the previous expression, ha ha ha. I run that and I get 1, which is what I was looking for. So the trick here is to look up the documentation for a related function and then scroll around looking for the thing you want without getting lost in all the very many functions that Racket provides. So that's two ways you can discover new primitives. You can either guess, and you'll be surprised how often you get lucky, or you can look up the documentation for an existing primitive and scroll around to find related primitives. As you program more and more, You'll get to know more and more primitives, and you'll be able to guess lucky more often. You're also going to see that programming environments, that's editors like Dr. Racket, have tools that help you guess more quickly. And we'll look at some of those in later weeks of the course.